A few weeks ago, I promised I would be starting to tell you some ghost tales for the Halloween. Sadly, just before the beginning of October, I was infected with COVID. It is only now that I feel up to coming out and starting to do some ghost stories. This first story is about a big cat. At the moment, I am sitting on the outskirts of Hamstersley Forest, where there's been a few sightings of big cats. Just down the road from me was one of the places where there was a sighting of a big cat. This sighting involved 3 people. They had gone and gotten permission to go shooting rabbits on a farm just up the road. This they would do most weekends and sometimes during the week. One night, Ian, Stephen and Helen were walking around the fields doing their usual night's rabbit shooting. Stephen and Helen were on the guns and Ian was on the lamp. As they walked around, they were just on the outskirts of Hamstersley Forest. Ian was shining the torch and Helen or Stephen were shooting the rabbits when they were spotted in the spotlight. As Ian was walking around, he got an awful feeling that something or someone was watching him. Every time he shone the torch along the edge of the wood, he felt that there was something just keeping out of the light. They carried on walking around, and after a while, Ian's nerves got the better of him, and he turned to Helen and says, "Can we swap over? Could you give me the gun? I want to do a bit shooting, and you take the lamp." They carried on walking around the fields and then headed straight back to the car. As was tradition, they would sit just before going home, having a cup of tea and a bite to eat. This was when Ian had said about his feeling of something watching him. He'd said as he was walking around, he got the feeling that something was just staying out their sight, out of the spotlight. Helen and Steve said they had a similar feeling. The farmer came out and he was talking to them, and Ian happened to mention to him about this, and he says, wait, he says, my dad always said that there was something evil in them woods. Now jump forward a bit. One weekend, Ian had get a new telescopic sight and he wanted somewhere where he could go and scope it in. He went up to Hamstersley, and because it had a good backdrop and was safe to shoot, he went in, parked up, got his gun out and walked to the plantation field. As he got there, he noticed that there was cattle in the field, so it would not be possible for him to put the zero in the scope. Then, as he sat just watching the cattle, he noticed on a tree stump what looked like a cat. With his scope, his new scope, he pulled it up to his eye, and they're sitting, not bothering the cattle, and the cattle not bothering it, was a cat. He described it as a lynx type cat, and he says it sat there for 5 or 10 minutes without even bothering the cattle. Later on, Ian also told me about one night when they had finished shooting and they departed to go home. Helen lived up in the Dales, and as she was going home, driving along the country roads, her main beams picked up something on the side of the road. At first, she thought it was a dog trying to pull a rabbit through a fence, But as she got closer and the main beam picked up on it, she realised that it was not a dog, and there was a very large cat, and it was trying to pull a deer through the fence. Helen slowed up and she rallied, watching this cat as it was trying to pull the deer through the fence. As she came closer, the cat saw her and it just turned, looked at her, and then with one bound jumped over the fence and ran off. Hampsley has had many sightings of big cats over the years. It could be misidentification, but from these three tales I do believe that there is something within these forests. So if you're ever up this way, keep your eyes open, and you don't know, you might see something.